Namaskar and a very warm welcome to all of you in this episode. Every year, the children appear in different examinations during the year and at the end of the year. And out of this, two particular classes are considered to be the key, the most important. These are classes 10th and 12th in our country. Because here the examination is conducted by the state boards or the central boards. And the results of these examinations are considered as to be the benchmark for the learning of the children. Because there are many schools and management, teachers, parents who try to analyze this result and try to find out what worked, getting a desired result, or what did not work. So when I was trying to understand what are those factors which might be helping children learn better than the other factors. So in that, I myself tried to find it out through different sources, talking to the parents, talking to the teachers, talking to other educators and students, and also going through the stuff which is available online. What I found is that there are three factors which are very, very important, or three interventions, or three people who can really make all the difference in the learning of the children. And that was my very subjective analysis and observation which I am sharing with you. And there I found that three stakeholders, that is the students, teachers and parents, are the key. And they're the ones who make huge difference in the learning of the children. So when I try to find out or quantify that how much is the contribution of each one of them in making learning better or more, then I found that the role of the students is most important. On how students really perform, they're the ones who really perform. Nobody else does it on their behalf. So I found that the self-motivation of the children is very, very important. If they're self-motivated, the learning is going to be really great. And what I could find that the contribution in the overall learning of the children of this particular factor would be around 40%. And the next very, very powerful factor here is the contribution of the teachers. And this comes out to be around 25%. And third one, of course, are the parents, how they are supporting their children, how they are involved with their learning and all that, and that contributes for about 20% of the total learning. And this, I'm saying that it was a subjective analysis and observation, but based on what I could get from different people, I have quantified the way I have done it. It may not be so necessarily. It would vary from student to student. It will vary from parent to parent, teachers to teachers. And when I was thinking about it, I came across one particular book written by Hattie titled as Visible Learning. And that was an eye-opener for me, and that gave me much broader idea and much deeper idea about the visible learning of the children. Hattie has done the research for about 15 years, over 1 million of students, और करीब 50,000 studies की हैं, and based on that he came out with a number of factors, interventions which can impact the learning of the children. और जो उन्होंने किया है इन फैक्टर्स में, कहते हैं ये कि 90% से ज्यादा हेल्प करते हैं बच्चों को, दे इम्प्रूव द लर्निंग ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन. सम इंटरवेंशंस ऑफ कोर्स वर इम्पैक्टिंग द लर्निंग नेगेटिवली, ये भी उन्होंने देखा. तो मैंने इसको समझने की कोशिश की. तो बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स हैं जो थोड़े कॉम्प्लिकेटेड हैं, कॉम्प्लेक्स हैं, बट व्हाट आई हैव ट्राइड टू अंडरस्टैंड फॉर माई सेल्फ एंड फॉर माई टीचर्स एंड पेरेंट्स इज दैट try to simplify it as much as we can and understand what is visible learning. What are those factors which impact it the most? Because here, Hattie says that there are almost 250 factors which are responsible for making the learning become better. उन 250 factors में से सारे के सारे तो उतने impactful नहीं हैं. There are certain factors which are very, very impactful, and there are certain which are just to be there, but learning does not get impacted too much. तो वो ये कहते हैं कि ये समझने के बजाय या ये जानने के बजाय कि what works in making the learning better, we must try to work upon understanding what impacts the learning the most. सबसे ज्यादा किन फैक्टर्स का फर्क पड़ता है, हमें उसके ऊपर ध्यान देना चाहिए. तो जब वो विजिबल लर्निंग की बात कर रहे थे तो उन्होंने टीचर्स के लिए और बच्चों के लिए इसको अलग अलग कहा। उन्होंने कहा कि विजिबल लर्निंग फॉर टीचर्स इज seeing the effect of their teaching in the eyes of their students. When the teachers were able to see the effect of their teaching through the eyes of their students, they became the evaluator of themselves. They could evaluate the impact of their teaching, seeing the visible learning through the eyes of the students. So that is the way he really said or titled probably the book as Visible Learning. So when it comes to the students' way of learning, so here visible learning for the students is that they learn what they learn. They know what they are learning and why are they doing? That makes learning visible. And then in this manner, they become their own teachers. तो जैसा मैंने आपको कहा कि करीब 15 साल तक रिसर्च की, 50,000 स्टडीज उनकी हैं और करीब करीब 1 बिलियन स्टूडेंट्स के ऊपर उनकी ये स्टडी है और उसके आधार पे फिर उन्होंने ये किताब भी लिखी। तो यहाँ पर उन्होंने एक हिंज पॉइंट निकाला, हिंज पॉइंट डी उन्होंने कहा जिसकी वैल्यू 0.40 है। नाउ बिफोर आई गो फर्दर आई वुड लाइक टू ड्वेल अपॉन दैट अ लिटिल बिट, क्योंकि ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहेगा और इसको इन्होंने नाम दिया इफेक्ट साइज। So, ये effect size is nothing but statistical measure of how much is the impact of that particular intervention on the learning of the child. कितना फर्क पड़ता है वो नापने का पैमाना है ये। और वो जब वो कहते हैं D is equal to 0.40, which he calculated based on the average of all the factors which impacted the learning of the children, he got this value as average value. और इससे नीचे जितनी भी वैल्यूज हैं उनको हम मानेंगे उनका इम्पैक्ट बहुत ज्यादा नहीं है, उनको चाहें तो हम कुछ देर के लिए इग्नोर भी कर सकते हैं। एंड जो इससे 0.40 से ऊपर हैं उनको उन्होंने इम्पैक्टफुल इंटरवेंशंस माना था फॉर द लर्निंग ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन। तो जब मैं ये उनका पढ़ रहा था उन्होंने डिफरेंट इंटरवेंशंस के लिए वैल्यूज दी हैं। तो जब भी मैं इफेक्ट साइज आपको कहूं तो आप उसको इन कंपैरिजन टू 0.40 देखना। अगर 0.40 से जितना ज्यादा ऊपर होगा मतलब उसका इम्पैक्ट उतना ही ज्यादा है। So I, considering the same three stakeholders as students, teachers and parents, I would like to talk more about students. What does he say about them? And he says self-estimation or self-expectations. When the child says or child considers that this I am going to achieve, and that high expectation, high self-expectation, high self-estimation would definitely make the child achieve greater. And here the effect size given by Hattie is 1.33, which is, you can see, I said that every time you have to compare it with 0.40. Then he talks about self-efficacy of the students. The students would have to have belief in their own abilities, and it has quite an impact on the learning of the children, and here he gives it around 0.70. So the impact of self-expectation and self-efficacy of the student is very, very important, and that would definitely lead the child to get self-motivated. And of course, the child will have to have the will to use these two abilities, two things which he has or she has got in himself or herself. Then it comes the teacher's impact. Now, in case of teachers, I mean, this is quite a bit, because the most powerful impact which can be made by somebody here other than the child self is the teacher. And here, the expectations of the teachers must also be very high of their students. So the self-estimation of the teacher about his or her student's ability to achieve something much, much higher than what the child would be thinking. So the belief of the teacher in child's ability and the belief of the teacher in the focus of the child to achieve those things which have been thought by the teacher for the child. Very, very important, and it is around 1.29. Again, very high. And of course, there is contribution, the way teacher teaches is there in the classroom, which is around 0.70. And when it comes to the knowledge of the teacher, it is around 0.15 to 0.17, which again is not very significant, and at times made me to feel like क्या टीचर की खुद की नॉलेज का कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं पड़ता है बच्चों के ऊपर? ऐसा नहीं है। टीचर की नॉलेज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। टीचर की नॉलेज, अगर टीचर को नॉलेज नहीं होगी सब्जेक्ट की तो वो बहुत ज्यादा नहीं कर पाएंगे कंट्रीब्यूट। हाँ, ये आइसोलेशन में किसी काम की नहीं है। अगर टीचर बहुत इंटेलिजेंट हैं लेकिन उनकी कोई हाई एक्सपेक्टेशंस या अपने बच्चों के बारे में सही एस्टिमेशन नहीं है, उनका पढ़ाने का जो तरीका है डज नॉट प्रोवाइड डीपर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द कॉन्सेप्ट देयर इन द क्लासरूम, तो फिर इस नॉलेज का इंपैक्ट उतना नहीं आ पाता है। लेकिन यहां पर मैं एक बात बताऊं, अनदर वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट इज द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन द टीचर एंड द स्टूडेंट्स। दैट इज सो ग्रेट। It has a quite high impact. Effect size is around 0.80. इंडिविजुअल टीचर का जो अगर बच्चे के साथ में बहुत अच्छा रिलेशनशिप है तो इम्पैक्ट ऑफ लर्निंग इज वेरी हाई। इसके बाद में बात आती है कि जब ये तो मैंने एक टीचर की बात की, अगर मैं इफ आई टेक अ ग्रुप ऑफ टीचर्स हु आर टीचिंग इन द क्लासरूम, इफ दे हैव द कलेक्टिव एफिकेसी ऑफ द टीचर्स या और कलेक्टिव एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ द टीचर्स from their students, it is 1.57. When the entire group of the teachers has belief in the ability of their children and they have very high expectations from their children, the learning is going to be the greatest, the huge learning is going to be huge, I tell you. So all those teachers, I mean individually somebody might be great, but if other teachers are not having the same sort of thing, then the learning would take place. It would be better, but it won't be that great. It can be what it can be in case when we are having collective efficacy of teachers. So that's very, very important in terms of teachers. And of course, class teachers are also very, very important, who really play a very, very important role, not necessarily in terms of teaching something there in the classroom other than their own subject, but definitely creating a very, very conducive environment in the classroom, that environment which brings everybody together and help each other. यहां पर एक और बात इन्होंने की है फीडबैक की। Now feedback, right feedback at the right time is very, very important. Making children understand what they have done right and what they could have done differently for improving. So that is around 0.80. Effect size feedback का भी बहुत अच्छा है। और कई बार हम लोग भूल जाते हैं because हमारे पास शायद उतना समय नहीं होता या whatever may be the reason, we are unable to give correct feedback, positive feedback, right feedback to the children at the right time. इसलिए कहते हैं कि अगर आपने कोई टेस्ट बच्चों को दिया है तो उसी वक्त बच्चों को विद इन नो टाइम वी मस्ट गिव द फीडबैक टू द चिल्ड्रन, बिकॉज इफ दैट फीडबैक इज डिलेड बाय 3 days, 4 days, 5 days or a week, I think children lose interest in understanding that or knowing that. तो जब ये बात करती है, कई बार होमवर्क के बारे में दी जाती है और होमवर्क में तो कभी कभी बातें की जाती है, ये मत लिखो वो मत लिखो ना। होमवर्क का इम्पैक्ट भी है, वो इफेक्ट साइज है 0.29, विच इज मच लेस देन 0.40, तो ये थोड़ा नीचे की तरफ है। बट मैं ये नहीं कहूंगा कि होमवर्क नहीं दिया जाना चाहिए। इन्होंने जो बताया है कि इम्पैक्ट ऑफ होमवर्क ऑन द लर्निंग ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन इज मिनिमम इन प्राइमरी क्लासेस। अर्ली ईयर्स में बहुत कम होता है, बट लेटर स्टेज पर हायर क्लासेस में होमवर्क का इम्पैक्ट लर्निंग के ऊपर काफी होता है। तो ये दोनों का एवरेज इन्होंने 0.29 निकाला है, बट इट वुड बी मोर इन केस ऑफ हायर क्लासेस। बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली व्हाट हैपेंस दैट चिल्ड्रन आर गिवन मोर होमवर्क इन लोअर क्लासेस देन इन हायर क्लासेस। आई डोंट नो व्हाट मे बी द पॉसिबल रीजन, बट हमें इस पे भी ध्यान देना होगा। ये तो बात आई अपने टीचर्स की। अब हम बात करें पेरेंट्स की। ना पेरेंट्स का रोल भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है। तो यहां पर भी सेल्फ जो एस्टिमेशन ऑफ द अचीवमेंट ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन, दैट इज द एक्सपेक्टेशंस बाय द पेरेंट्स of their children again is very important। और यहां पर भी इन्होंने जो इफेक्ट साइज दिया इसका 0.80 के आसपास दिया है। देन सेकेंड इज द इन्वॉल्वमेंट ऑफ द पेरेंट्स। तो इन्वॉल्वमेंट पेरेंट को इन्होंने करीब करीब 0.80 के आसपास ही उसको भी माना है। और मतलब इन्वॉल्वमेंट इज वेरी वेरी इन्वॉल्वमेंट का मतलब ये नहीं कि आते ही ये पूछो स्कूल में क्या किया क्या नहीं किया। तो वो ये कहते हैं कि भाई आप ये कहिए कि आज स्कूल में क्या अच्छा हुआ, आज आपने क्या नई चीज की, आज आपने क्या नई चीज सीखी, कौन सी वो चीज अच्छी है विच विल हेल्प यू लेटर इन योर लाइफ। सो दोज पॉजिटिव थिंग्स शुड बी टॉक्ड मोर देन नेसेसरली व्हाट वेंट रॉन्ग। क्योंकि कई बार हम लोगों की ये आदत आती है, हमें पता होना चाहिए, हमारे बच्चों को ये एक फ्रीडम होनी चाहिए कि कुछ चीज अच्छी नहीं है वो भी हमसे शेयर कर ले। बट अगर हम उनसे साथ में ये भी पूछ लेंगे कि भाई अगर इसको कैसे फिर हम ठीक करें, व्हाट कैन बी ए बेटर वे ऑफ डूइंग इट, तो बच्चे को ये उम्मीद लगेगी कि मैं भी अपनी तरफ से कोई कंट्रीब्यूट करूं। और फिर आता है होम एनवायरनमेंट, जो सोशल इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस ऑफ फैमिली होता है, इसका भी फर्क पड़ता है। दिस इज अराउंड 0.52 इफेक्ट साइज। तो अगर लिटरेसी लेवल अच्छा है, इकोनॉमिक स्टेटस ठीक है, तो द चाइल्ड गेट्स बेनिफिटेड बाय दैट इन मेकिंग लर्निंग बेटर। तो ये तीनों के बारे में बात करने के बाद में मैं जो अगर इनको कंपेयर करता हूँ, आप लोग भी करके देखिए कि जो इनिशियली मैंने आपको बोला था कि 40% self-motivation, that is the students' efforts, and then 25% the teachers' efforts, and then 20% as the parents' efforts. तो यहाँ पर भी आप जब इफेक्ट साइज को जोड़ोगे अलग अलग करके, तो you will find it almost the same. Of course, I do feel like the impact of the teachers comes out to be a little more here when I studied or when I read visible learning and tried to understand this particular research which John Hattie has done for all of us. The second thing is that when we are talking of expectations, high expectations, when I have high expectations from my students and from myself, I am challenging myself, I am challenging my students. So that challenge is very, very important. And that challenge has got to be achievable. I always say that it should not be unrealistic. So what I get from there is teacher's job is to ensure that student is challenged and receives the right feedback at the right time. The parent's job is to value that challenge and provide the emotional and aspirational safety net that allows the students to take risks in their learning. Now this is very, very important, and this I can say in a different way as well. That whenever the self-expectation of the student, expectations of the parents, and expectations of the teachers are aligned, then the child will get self-motivated hugely and the learning is going to be tremendous. So the expectations of all three have to get aligned so that the children get motivated, self-motivated, and whenever the children are self-motivated, the result is going to be huge, tremendous in terms of learning of the subjects and other things of their life. I hope whatever I have tried to discuss with all of you will make some sense for the teachers and parents, and we would start digging out for those factors which impact the learning of the children the most, and will not be really troubling ourselves only for those factors which may not yield great result. Thank you very much. God bless us all.